Hello, this is Darren Tierson, and today I'm going to walk you through a procedure on Spritesheet animation. And we're going to be using the free open source tools Blender and Gimp, and we're also going to be using a little bit of JavaScript so we can embed our result inside a web page so we can get something like this. We've got 5 buttons down below here. If we click forward, we can see there's Big Buck Bunny jumping rope. We can make him jump faster, and we can do it in reverse slow, reverse fast, and stop the animation. So you can stop it at any point and then kind of move forward. So Spritesheet animation has been around for a long time. It's a very powerful technique. This example that we're looking at is currently found at darrenscorner.com/spritesheets/example2.html, and I'll include all the links that I talk about here inside the comments section. A couple other URLs that you might be of interest is darrenscorner.com/spritesheets/files plural.zip. Will be a compressed folder that you can download. I've downloaded that already. And I'm going to be following along on a procedure that I typed into PDF that can be found at darrenscorner.com/spritesheets/sprite procedure. Notice the S in sheet and the P in procedure are capitalized .pdf. And we can see here's the PDF file that you can download and save that I'm going to kind of be working off of as we go through this. So we'll start with downloading the files from here. These are the files that we're going to work with, files.zip. There we go. I'm not going to download them. I have them here already, and they're in this folder here. And if we look, there's a blend file, bigbuckjump.blend. It's a short little scene from Big Buck Bunny where he's jumping rope that we have here. Open. There we go. And we can see there's Buck jumping rope, and if we go and hit play, we can kind of see the whole thing right there. He does a little embarrassed look. That's kind of cool. But what we want to focus in on is we want to just do one cycle of him jumping rope. So I looked through this and I found the best way is if we set our start time here to frame 9. Right there, and set our end frame to frame 19, and we get one cycle of him jumping rope. So I'm going to move the timeline and we can see roughly what that looks like. Let me expand it. There we go. So if I hit play, we can see now we're just doing frame 9 to frame 19 of him jumping rope. So when it gets to 19, it's almost, I'll walk through it step by step. There's frame 18, frame 19, and then when we jump back, when we jump to frame 9, he's at this position. So it works pretty smoothly for that. So you can see how that works. Let's go and render this. So we're going to go into the output section here, into the property editor. I'm going to shrink that down. And set the destination to, I'm going to set it to the desktop. So instead of temp, I'm going to set it to the desktop, and the output name that I'm going to give it is, what am I going to do here? I think I'm going to call it just Big Buck, and I'm going to do a .png file and hit accept. So we're going to get a bunch of PNG files that we have here. So under our file format, mine's currently set to AVI JPEG. I'm going to set this to PNG, and then this is kind of important. We want to enable alpha channels. I'll explain this later. So we do that by clicking this RGBA button. So it's red, green, blue, and then alpha button that we have right here. We have to then go to the shading section right here, and under the shading we'll set the alpha as transparent. So alpha instead of sky, I'm going to make that transparent. This is kind of neat when we do this for a web application, because we'll be able to see anywhere where it's gray here in the background, we'll actually be able to see whatever the background color is on the web page. So now I always like to do this. I just like to do file save in case something goes totally wrong with the render process. And then I'm going to choose render animation. And this will take a minute or two, so I might pause the video at this point because there's a lot to render here. But in the end result, we'll get 11 PNGs sitting on the desktop. So I'll just let this render. I'm going to stop the video and jump forward once this is all done. And when this is done, we can just close out Blender and we're done using it. Okay. Well, we're back. I just closed Blender, and we've rendered out 11 frames here. We can see right there, there are the 11 ones. Mine, I didn't change any names, so it's bigbuck.png0009.png. Looks like I got some naming confusion that we have here. And through, there's the last one. So it's kind of a series, and if we open up, I'll just open up the first one. We can kind of see what it looks like inside a preview. So there's that scene. Notice where this is gray, that's actually going to be transparent when we bring that into a web page. And if I go to information on this fella, I kept all the default values, so you can see right here his dimensions are 960 by 540. So he's 960 pixels wide, 540 pixels tall. In the next step, we're going to create a Gimp sprite sheet, not a spreadsheet, in Gimp that has combines all these 11 frames together. So the height will remain the same. It should remain 540 pixels, but the width is going to be really, really super wide. It's going to be 10,560 pixels. And I got that number by taking 960 and multiplying it by 11, because we have 11 frames. So we're going to have 11 of these kind of side by side. Now, before we start Gimp, there's a special add-on that we're going to have here that helps us to make sprite sheets. This is one of the reasons that I chose to use Gimp instead of Photoshop or something like that. That plus it's open source. So we can see here at registry.gimp.org/node/20943, and I'll try to include this in the URLs that we have here. And depending on if you're using Windows or Linux or Mac, the method to install this is going to be a little bit different. Please read through the installation procedure that we have right here on this page. Again, I'm on a Mac right now. I'm not going to show this. I've already got it installed. But go ahead and install it, and then we can close this out and start up Gimp. Now, I've installed that already. Like I said, I'm going to let you figure out how to do that. Read the documentation. So we start up Gimp, and since this plugin is installed already, I'm going to open up these files. Give me a second. There we go. There's Gimp. And I'm going to say File, and then instead of Open, I'm going to say Open as Layers, and this will allow me to choose all the files that we have right here. So I go to the desktop. There they are. And again, they're kind of named in a sequential order, so I'm going to select all 11 of them right there. And say Open. Now what happens when we do this, it looks a little weird here, but what this is we have a 960 by 540 document with 11 layers. And if I go into Dockable Dialogues, Tool Options, and Dockable Dialogues, Device Status, I think something like that. Now where is it? Recently closed, Toolbox, Layers, that's what I wanted, my bad. We can see we have 11 layers here, so if I toggle the visibility of each one of these, you kind of see fewer of them, so you can kind of see how they're sitting on top of each other right now, but I'm going to turn all those on. So that's just fine right now. We're now going to say Filters, Spritesheet, and again, this Spritesheet won't show up unless you've installed the plugin, and Create from Layers. And we pop up with this. So there's that super long. This is, again, everything kind of gets scaled in Blender. Let me close that down. We can see what that sheet looks like. It's 540 pixels tall and 10,560 pixels wide. So we have that. I need to export that and make sure to export it as a PNG. I'm going to do File, Export, and I'm just going to call this, put it on the desktop, and call it sheet1.png, and export it. And I think I'll just go with all the defaults that we have right here. Export. It takes a second. There we go. At this point, I can close Gimp. I'm not going to be doing any of that stuff again. Discard changes. There we go. And if I want to, I can throw away these 11 files. I won't be using them. I think I'm just going to, I'll dump them. Drag them down here to the trash. If I open up Sprite 1, we can see this is what it looks like. It's really, really super long. But we can see there's image 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 10 there. So I'm sure this will work out just fine. but if we kind of zoom in, you can sort of see what that looks like. So a lot of detail. Now this is with Spritesheet animation. What this is we often have one large file that we're going to move around a little bit. And the reason for this on a web page is instead of loading 11 files, we load one large one and then move it around, and we usually kind of get better results here. So, and again, just to double check, if I right click, get info, where is it? Why doesn't it say what this is? Or they give me the size. Okay. Not going to worry about that. Okay, so this is Sprite 1. Place it in the same folder as basic1.html. So here's basic1.html. I'm going to drag it in here. And we can see here's basic 1. I'm going to open this up. Right now, if we look at this, it looks something like this. Close this. So it looks something like this, and we're going to show sort of the basics here of how this works. And let's go and look at it in source code. So open with, I always like to use Text Wrangler. Notepad++ works pretty good in the Windows environment. Come on, open up. There we go. So, view, text display, show fonts, make this a little bit bigger. 18. So it's a pretty basic file. What we have here is we've got our heads. Here's our head section right there. And here's the style that controls the body, H1, image 1, and button 1. Here's the script section where we're going to add some stuff in here. And then in the body, we say on load, we're going to run a function called init. We haven't defined that yet. We have an H1 tag, and then we have div id equals image 1, and the div closes. We've then defined image 1, the height and the width up here, and we said background image equals URL sheet1.png. So Buck should show up inside there as long as he's in the same directory. And then underneath it we have a button called button1 and value next frame, on click next frame. So we're going to create two functions in these next procedures called init and next frame. These are JavaScript functions. And then down below we have background position is, and then we have a span tag. So we're going to kind of tell what the background position is. So I'm going to do a file save as and call this basic2.html. There we go. And work on this one. Again, I could start working on basic 1. I always like to keep the original around in case I totally screw up. I can always kind of come back to this. So there's a few code snippets we need to add. Basic code snippets, I put them in a .txt file. Now again, I'm hoping everyone knows the basics of HTML that's watching this, but you may not be super familiar with JavaScript, so I'm kind of giving you the code and you can go in and dissect this. Here are two functions called init and next frame. Init goes in, and this one's going to, we put it in body on load, and we're going to initially set the background position of image 1 to 0, 0. So that one will only run once when the body loads. This one, next frame, is going to run every time this button is clicked. So on click of button 1, every time that's clicked, we're going to run the next frame function. So let me double check my notes here. Background position. Yep. Let's look at next frame, and what that does is it goes in and gets the background position, and we parse it out, and then I say if the result here is not negative 9,600, we're going to say document get element by image 1 style background position. We're going to switch it here. Basically, this is going to move it along the horizontal. So we're going to take the original value and subtract 96 from it, and then make that pixels. And then we're not going to move him up and down here. Now I've commented out this line right here, and I'll explain why we wanted to do that. So this is more of kind of a demonstration. So if, and then otherwise, if this isn't true, then we're going to set the background position back to 0, 0. And then we do one more command where we say display position, that's that text box below, is going to be equal to this. So basically that will display that. Again, if you're not familiar with JavaScript, there are other great tutorials out there. But what I'm going to do is copy both of these, copy, and go inside the script statement here and paste it. There we go. And do a file save. So let's see what happens when we run this. So here is basic 2. There we go. Buck originally loads. There's the next frame button. Background position is blank. And when I click on here, you can see what happened. It says background position is negative 96 px 0 px. Now I put that in on purpose. I'm going to fix that in the next step. But we can see each time I click this, what's happening is this is jumping over by 96 pixels. So if I keep doing this, eventually when I do it 10 times, then we're on frame 2. So watch where the rope is back there in the background. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's frame 3. So kind of demonstrates how all that works. Now that's not how this kind of shows the basics of Spritesheet animation, kind of breaking it down. We're windowing through, pushing this large sheet of images across. Now I'm going to go in and change this. Instead of 96 to change it to 960. So open up basic.html again with Text Wrangler. There it is. And I'm just going to change this to 960. That's what if I want to, I can actually delete this line and just use this line and remove those comments. So let's do that. So now we're going to take the original position and subtract 960. So now file save. If I open this up in my browser, now we can see bunk, 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 bunk. Okay, somewhere I screwed up along the way. I'll fix this later on. It looks like the last frame of my Spritesheet, I've got a problem with it. I think it's because I only had 10 and I was supposed to have 11. So we'll see about fixing that. I think I can fix that maybe on the fly with code. Let me double check here. I'm going to write this one down, negative 8640. So let me go and change that real quick, and we'll have a little skip. Again, right here, this if statement, negative 9600, I'm going to change this to negative 8640. File save, and let's view it one more time. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, there's a little bit. We should have 11 frames. I only have 10. There's a little bit of a skip. So maybe I'll see about when I redo this tutorial doing that. But I think I goofed up in the Gimp section. So that's the basics that we have right there. Let's look at the advanced section. So I'm going to look at advanced 1. And if we open this up with Text Wrangler, we can see view, text display, show fonts. Let's bring that up. We've got a lot more CSS because we've added a bunch of buttons. Instead of 1 button, we're going to have 5. And we can see there's our image. I took out that text display, and here are our 5 buttons. Button 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, where we go forward slow, forward fast, reverse slow, reverse fast, and stop. And for each one of these, we're going to run a function called forward 1, forward 2, reverse 1, reverse 2, and stop animation. So that's the basics for this. Again, I'm going to just kind of be cautious here and do file save as and call this advanced2.html. And then I'm going to open up another code snippet. Files, here it is, advanced code snippet.txt, and you can see that we have the init function. Let me make it just a little bit bigger. There we go. There's a global variable called timer1. Again, this isn't a JavaScript tutorial, so I'm not going to get into the detail, but it's a global variable that we're going to use here. We use it a lot when we do set intervals and clear intervals. We need global variables. Also, I'm going to change these two, since I've had that issue, to negative 864, right down there to positive 864. So again, if you have 11 images in your sprite sheet, you can use the original 9600. But I have my init function, that's the same. I've created two different functions called next frame and previous frame. They're pretty similar, except this one, next frame, does subtraction, x2 minus 960, and previous frame does addition. So it depends on if we're moving to the left or the right inside the sprite sheet to show kind of the keyhole of what's inside there. So I have these two functions. They're going to be called by my upcoming functions of forward 1, forward 2, and reverse 1, reverse 2. Forward 1 will we clear the interval, and then we say timer 1 equals set interval next frame 60. Forward 2 is exactly the same, except we say set interval next frame 40. The difference between these two, this is the slow and this is the fast. Every 60 milliseconds it will go to the next frame. And for this one, every 40 milliseconds it goes to the next frame. So this one ends up being a little faster. Again, if I put 20 in here, he'd be super fast. If I put 80 in here, he'd be a little bit slower. So the larger the number here, the slower it's going to go. The smaller the number, the faster. I did the same thing here with 60 and 40, except I'm calling the function previous frame. So this will basically make him go back. And then here's the stop animation function. So again, if you're familiar with JavaScript, this should make sense. If you're not, you can just do what I'm doing. I'm going to copy the whole shebang, copy, and then in advanced 2, inside the script tag here between lines 28 and 30, I'm just going to paste that in. So I've got these functions sitting there inside here. And again, I think I'll just collapse them here so we can kind of see what's going on here. Nice little feature that we have. So you can see these functions, and then these dots mean there's lines of code there. So we've created these functions, and then we call init when the page loads, and then we call the forward function when we click button 1, forward 2 when we click button 2, reverse 1 when we click button 3, reverse 2 when we click button 4, and stop animation when we click button 5. So I'm going to do a file save, and let's verify it works. Advanced 2, there he is. So forward slow, that's pretty good. Forward fast, 40 milliseconds as opposed to 60. Reverse slow, got a little bit of that flash there. Reverse fast, and stop. And again, I think there's a minor problem here. I should double check how I did this, but in my sprite sheet I was expecting 11 and I just got 10 individual images. This one's blank, so I think that was the problem. Maybe I don't know, I'll have to look into why that happened. But anyways, that's an introduction to Spritesheet animation. Again, to see what the final results look like, I'll put all URLs here inside the comments, but Spritesheets/example2. And there we go. This is what it looks like with 11 images in the sprite sheet. And there we go, a lot faster. Slow, whoop, and stop. So thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.